here at Six Silver Seals, bidding you welcome to another edition of Tarot Tuesday. This is for the 7-day period that begins on September 15th, 2020, and we are already at the last Tarot Tuesday for Virgo season, which means we are approximately halfway through the zodiacal year, or at least we will be. Next Tuesday will be the beginning of Libra season, which marks the midway point. And a very interesting week, all told, this week. It was a little bit difficult actually to know which aspect to work with for y'all because there are so many. As the sun moves into the later degrees of Virgo, we've got it trine to all those outer planets that are in Capricorn right now, not to mention all the work that Venus is up to. And of course, the new moon will be Thursday, as will the aspect that I've ended up choosing, which is Mercury in Libra, from which we get the Magician and Justice. These are going to be square to newly direct Jupiter in Capricorn. So Jupiter, as the Wheel of Fortune, will be upright, but it will reverse Capricorn as the devil. And so we've got Mercury in Libra, the Magician and Justice. And so this is sort of a thing where the magician is someone with all the tools at their disposal, right? All the ability to do the things that they want to do. And with justice there, it's not just... there's a measured quality to that, right? Not merely having all the tools at your disposal with which to do a work or the work, but knowing which ones are the right tools for the job, having the discernment to pick out, whether you need the wand versus the sword, whether you need the cup versus the pentacle. In lots of very, in ways that are kind of very interesting because Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune, representative of cycles of luck or fortune or karma or fate or whatever word that you want to use for it. With the devil reversed here, it's about breaking free of limitations, self-imposed or otherwise, that have to do with the turning of the Wheel of Fortune. So whether that's our perception of whether we're going through a period of, again, good luck or bad luck or good karma or bad karma or whatever, a more measured approach to how we apply ourselves to a problem is letting us see the problem for what it really is. This is a remarkably great window of clarity that is getting ready to open up right under the new moon on Thursday, which is very interesting. It's not just it allows a shift in mindset to be the catalyst for something new. Especially with Mercury here, which, controls the thought processes and the communications and what have you. This feels like a really excellent week for getting the ball rolling on something that has proven to be resistant to efforts to move it. I imagine Sisyphus all of a sudden developing superhuman strength and being able to just, prop the boulder up on his shoulder and carry it up the hill, instead of having to push it. And finding that was the way that it needed to be done all along. Maybe not something quite so dramatic as all that, mind, but the same kind of thing. A new approach after a period of reconsideration of the current one might just be the thing that is needed. But for the last time this year, we'll begin with Virgo. And we have the Nine of Wands. Now, the Nine of Wands was part of one of the draws from the weekend pick-a-piles that I just did for y'all. And again, the Nine of Wands is a card of having the high ground, but of also being ready to defend it from what feels like an imminent threat. And it's the feeling of being imminently threatened, actually, Virgo, that I would encourage you to question. do you really have that much to worry about? Um, in I forget which pile that card belonged to, but the notion was one of you're not actually losing anything, but the fact that you go from a place of perfect peace to feeling like you have to have a defensible position is sort of telling of what will happen in between. This is more of the this if you are a Virgo who picked that pile, you may find that the threat was illusory. And even if you didn't pick that pile, you may find that the threat you feel like you have to be ready to face, even though you already have the high ground against it, is not as much of a threat as you thought it was, if it's a threat at all. For Libra, we have the Five of Swords. And it's funny that we should get this card with Mercury in your sign for this aspect, although it is a square, so maybe not. Because the Five of Swords is a fight that doesn't do anyone any good. Either there's either no way for you to win, or there's either no way for you to win this fight, Libra, or it will cost so much that it won't be worth it. Sort of an interesting opposition to your counterparts in the previous sun sign Virgo, where theirs is a fight that may or may not be real. Yours is a real fight that's may or may not and probably isn't worth it. May or may not be and probably isn't worth it, rather. There are other ways to approach this. And actually, now that I'm saying that out loud, it occurs to me that maybe like that's the realization you're going to come to, is that you've been fighting a battle against an enemy that would make a better ally, or that there are other ways to handle this rather than picking up the sword. Again, the Mercury Libra connection is about the discernment to know which tools are the right ones for the job. And if you all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. If all you have is a sword, every problem looks like something to stick it into. For Scorpio, we have the Hierophant, the card of your opposite number in Taurus. And by that token, Scorpio, this card gives you almost as much trouble as it gives Aquarius, because although the Hierophant belongs to your opposite number in Taurus, its connotations of tradition and what is customary and the status quo are anathema to the water bearer also. But for you, this card being here is just I see no reason not to pair it with the Devil reversed from the first part of the read. Where have you been hamstringing yourself by doing it because it's the way you're expected to do it? Especially now that you know that you have tools to do it in a different way, and discernment enough to know that those different ways may actually work better. Why are you continuing to do it the way that you feel you're expected to, the way that you feel everyone else is expecting you to? There are times to abide by tradition and times to flout it. And for you, I think, Scorpio, this week is going to be more of the latter. Especially after the new moon. For Sagittarius, we have Strength, the card which belongs to Leo. I feel like I've drawn this card for you before recently, Sagittarius, and there's still more work to be done here of letting the inner fire shine forth, letting the inner lion roar. Which, honestly, I really hate to see the same card for anybody two times, because it means that either you didn't learn the lesson or there's more of the lesson to be learned. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lecture you. That's not my job. I'm just the interpreter. Please don't shoot the messenger. But It is seeming that there is more that you need to do, and maybe that's part of this with Mercury and Libra, is that you're aware now that there are other ways to let it out than the ones you've been doing that you need to pursue. A phrase I grew up with as a child that's a little bit horrific, but is one that seems apropos here, is that there's more than one way to skin a cat. I don't know why you would skin a cat. That seems horrible on lots of levels. But the idea is saying that, right, there's more than one way to accomplish the task that you've set out to accomplish. Why limit yourself to just the one that you're familiar or comfortable with, especially if other ones will do it better? Something to consider as we move through this part of the lunar cycle. For Capricorn, we have the Four of Cups. And this is a card of disillusionment and dissatisfaction. And I get the feeling, Capricorn, that whatever this this is an ongoing thing for you. I also feel like I drew this for you recently too. This is an ongoing thing for you. One that is laying itself barer as time wears on, exactly how it is that you are, unsatisfied or unhappy with the current situation. You don't want anymore. Like I think I mentioned before that this is the no thanks I'm good card. Like you're at that point. You've been here for a minute, I feel like, and now it's just like the reasons why you're at the no thanks I'm good place are just piling up. Like, it's almost as though the situation is sort of devolving around you. Like you've stopped putting in any effort towards making it worse, and it continues to get worse anyway, through no fault of your own. Like, I'm just going to stand back and let this thing do what it's doing, and it turns out that you were a stabilizing force for it without your influence to keep it from getting worse progressively. It's getting worse progressively faster. For Aquarius, we have the Hanged Man, the card of Neptune, if I'm not mistaken. And talking about this as a mindset shift, as we did at the outset, is pretty helpful to you, Aquarius, I think, because what you need is a change in perspective. What you need is a change of point of view. You need to find a different way of looking at things. And that, especially with the Devil reversed, like a lot of times the Hanged Man, the Devil reversed for me, this is what they say. It's just, you have hamstrung yourself for far too long by looking at the world through the same set of eyes. You need to get, whether it's outside input or just to step back from a situation and look at it a little bit differently with a little bit clearer of a head and cooler of a temper. The position you're in, you need to get out of somehow. And that's what I see here for you, Aquarius, is just this need to get out of your own head and let things be as they are, knowing that, again, you need to see the problem differently in order to be able to apply yourself to it in a different way. Again, this is one of those things where the discernment is coming in rather than already there. For Pisces, we have the King of Swords. And I expect to see my Piscean friends and family unusually sharp-witted for the next week or so. with Mercury riding high on this square, this is a keen intellect, right? This is someone who like with the magician there, you've got all the tools at your disposal, but the sword is the go-to. And again, I will caution you against only using the sword because, like I said, if all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. But it's perfectly fine for the sword to be your fallback option, provided you exhaust the possibility of using the others first. Like it's good. The times where your brain works quickly and accurately are amazing, and they're great, and it's perfectly fine to lean on that when you need to. But if you eschew responding to things any other way than the intellectual one, you're going to have a bad time. So again, embrace the devil reversed here. Don't limit yourself to just the sword because you still do have the wand, the cup, and the pentacle. Speaking of pentacles, we have the Page of Pentacles for Aries. The beginning of some new material venture. Or the beginning of a new approach to a material venture. This could be the beginning of your gold rush, Aries. Now, it isn't necessarily. We can get ahead of ourselves and assume that there is a vein to be tapped when in reality, what we've found is all there is to find. This is where the discernment of Mercury and Libra needs to come in. As hard as it is going to be, I advise you to play this slowly. It definitely feels like the sort of thing that this is going to need time and effort to work in the way that you want it to. And if you go whole hog now, assuming that there is more to what reveals itself than there actually is, will burn you out and leave you jaded, and you will walk away from it before you should. Play it slowly, play it carefully, and be thorough. Unfortunately, this is going to be one of the things where we have to do the thing that is the hardest for us as Aries suns and see it all the way through to the end. Another page for Taurus, it's Wands. And where Aries is getting, again, what could be the beginning of some new material venture, for you, Taurus, this is the beginning of what could turn into a very, very strong passion project. Something is igniting, something is kindling for you as a result of Mercury and Jupiter getting a little bit less than cozy in this square aspect. Something we haven't talked about yet that we probably should throughout all of this is that Jupiter is the planet of growth. And with a square, it's not an opposition, right, where they're trying to do the same thing in two wildly different ways. It's a square. There are two different goals that the road to each goal they cross, and it's a thing of navigating that intersection so that you can get through it on one side or the other without being forced to turn off onto a different path, and God forbid the one that leads all the way backwards, right? If it's an X where you're going forwards from the bottoms to the tops, the worst thing you can do is go up and then turn and go back to the bottom of the other side. And that's sort of the way that I feel that this is going. If you allow the passion to consume you, you will only get as much forward progress as you need to regress right back to the same old place. And although that's comfortable for you, Taurus, you are after all a creature of comfort and habit. the thing to do is follow the energy of the wands all the way to its zenith. Now, whether you're following Jupiter or Mercury um, is going to depend on the individual Taurian, but either way, pursue that path all the way to its end. Let this passion drive you forwards instead of driving you to only deal with as much discomfort as you absolutely have to get yourself right back to where you started. For Gemini, we have the Three of Wands. And this is a place where you're charting a course forward. What you are being made to see now that you have a little more clarity, Gemini, is sort of the road ahead with respect to a desire or a goal. Like you're seeing, like, and I mean, you know, it's a vista that's opened up before you. You see just how far there is to go, and get a general sense of like what obstacles lie in your way: rivers, mountains, forests. So I also get the feeling that it's in pursuit of something more long term, maybe than the rest of the sun signs. For you, Gemini. But again, the clarity is giving you the chance to really see like what lies between you and success and which routes are going to be appropriate for getting at that goal. Now, I won't say they will be the shortest paths or the easiest paths, but the ones that make the most sense. One thing that Mercury and Libra is not going to do here is shy away from throwing you down paths where there are hurdles and obstacles to get over. What it does do is equip you with all the tools that you need in order to do that. And with Jupiter, the planet of growth, also as part of this, you will become large enough to slay the monsters in your path, even if you aren't necessarily, pardon me, big enough to do that to start with. For Cancer, we have the Six of Swords. A victory and a rest, however temporary both might be. And even something about that feels like it's part of the revelatory nature of this aspect for you. You are seeing, Cancer, the nature of victory is fleeting, and the nature of the reprieve that victory brings as fleeting. You are understanding that no victory is eternal, right? No period of rest lasts forever. There is always something new to do, some new challenge to overcome, some new battle to win, some new dragon to slay. And despite how defeatist that feels, this seems still overwhelmingly positive for you to see things, to come to this realization and to see things in this light. You are understanding that all victory is temporary. No matter how long it lasts, it doesn't last forever. And that this too is a blessing. Last but certainly not least, we have Leo. And Leo has the Wheel of Fortune. With the card of Jupiter here twice for you, Leo, the feeling I get is overwhelmingly one of that. This is going to be a period of growth for you. And moreover, it's growth towards a certain ideal. Like you have a vision of what you would like to build, what you would like to do, what you would like to be, and you're pursuing it. But it's more than just that, because it's the ghost of an awareness of a how to grow into the shape that you would like to ultimately take when this particular growing is done. There is an awareness of which steps are the right steps or which ones are the wrong steps. I mean, either way, that knowledge is handy. Knowing what to avoid is almost as good as knowing exactly what to do. And in reality, we usually get the former rather than the latter. Let's be real. But again, knowing ahead of time where the traps are in the dungeon keeps you from falling into them. Um, for this stretch of the dungeon, you get to be the rogue with trap finding. To bring a Dungeons and Dragons analogy to this, but it is, like I say, Leo, overwhelmingly, this is going to be the kickoff of a period of growth for you. Now that you have the clarity to see exactly which steps to take on the path moving forward. And that is Tarot Tuesday for this week. I sincerely hope that you guys enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Again, I'll remind you that if you're a Patreon subscriber at the tier of Cosmonaut or higher, that you get early access to these videos and all the other stuff on Monday. There is another video coming soon, so stay tuned. And in the meantime, I will see you next week. Be kind to yourselves and to one another.